From the station that made country music famous, 650 AM WSM, this is a Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Hey, it's Charlie Matos, and in this episode, we will Zoom with Elvie Shane. Elvie joined us the morning of April 27th. He's got a great new single called My Boy that's climbing up the charts, and he had just made his debut on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry. A lot to talk about with Elvie Shane. Enjoy our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast.
Let that soak in just a little bit. It is so powerful. Elvie Shane made his Opry debut, and as he was introducing the song, he got a little choked up. But you nailed it when you started singing it. I don't know how you pulled it off. Even after all this time, as many times as you have sung that, I know there's probably a moment, particularly a Grand Ole Opry debut, which you made Friday night, and I got to be there to bring you on, that it gets you. Maybe it's in a different spot each time you sing it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, that whole experience, that one line in that song that says he's making me a better man, that's usually the place where I get got, you know. But that whole experience was just so incredible. I feel like in this industry, there's so many things that happen or so many milestones that are met that are just like numbers that you hear or things that you see online or whatever based on numbers, but that was like a really tangible thing to get to hold on to get to stand out there and sing that song that's done so much for me and my team over the last 5 years.
Elvie Shane from Caneyville, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. His manager, Clarence Spalding, and I, turns out, grew up together. Elvie didn't know this backstory on me, that you can get papers on me in parts of rural central Kentucky. And so immediately when you meet, you tell people what county you're from. You don't tell them what town.
Right, county.
Grayson County.
Yes.
Right. Caneyville, last census population, 608 people in Caneyville, Kentucky, who know how to act.
Mostly. 607 now.
Mostly.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, so it's 107 miles from Caneyville to the Grand Ole Opry. 2 hours and 1 minute. Had you been before as a fan sitting out in the crowd, or was the first time in the house, the first time on stage?
Now, I'd been once before, but I was living in Nashville at the time. Okay. It was just about a year before the pandemic started. I got to see Dierks Bentley and Chris Jansen. I had a blast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So were you just in the audience, or did you have backstage access?
No, I was in the audience. I prefer to see the show that way. Backstage is always cool, but it's always nice to sit right in front of the sound guy too if you're there for the music. So.
You just mentioned it was Chris Jansen. It was at Dierks Bentley that you saw. Who were some of your childhood inspirations? When did you fall in love with this genre and with music?
I guess my introduction was a little bit different than most. My two earliest memories of country music were kind of some Outcast dudes. Steve Earle's 1986 Guitar Town record.
Yeah, man.
John Fogerty's 1997 Blue Moon Swamp country record that he did solo record. And then, of course, I'm growing up listening to all the 90s country. I was a big Clint Black fan. Still am a big Clint Black fan. Dwight Yoakam, of course, and then, all the greats, the Merles, the Whalens, the Johnny Cashes. But grew up watching all those guys play the Opry on old reruns. And, my dad and his dad were big Opry fans growing up. Of course, that was a big thing to watch when they were growing up. It was like their main form of entertainment for country music back then.
Yeah.
Your dad was in a band, had his own band, didn't he?
My dad, no, a band of hooligans, maybe, but I'm sure y'all heard him while you were up on the stage the other night.
I did, in fact. All right, so the backstory on My Boy, it is a true story. We don't see you, for folks who are watching on Circle Television, we don't see you portrayed in the video. There are character actors who do that role. But tell us about Shane and Mandy and when they come into your life and along the way you write this song.
Yeah, man. So I met Mandy back in 2012. She was a bartender and waitress at a place called Overtime up in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And we were both kind of out of college at that point, not as in we graduated, but more as in we couldn't figure out what we wanted to be when we grew up. So we were taking a break on spending our money or the government's money on our on our college education. So I met her there, and I was actually about to move to Colorado. I had some friends that were headed over to Colorado within, a few weeks' time. They were moving over to Boulder, and it was always kind of a dream of mine. I met her and changed my mind, stuck around there, got married a year later, became a stepfather, and then started coming to Nashville after a 3-year hiatus. I put my guitar up in the closet and didn't play for a few years, and then picked it back up and started coming down here writing songs. This is the long and short of it.
Mm-hmm.
And was down here for about a year almost, and just ended up on the back porch one night talking about a Facebook post a friend of mine's stepmom had sent me. It said, I don't have a stepson, I have a son that was born before I met him. And that really resonated with me, obviously being in my situation. So 3 out of the 4 of us sitting on that porch that night could kind of connect with that idea some way, form, or fashion. And we just started writing. And somebody said, I was like telling them about the Facebook post, and Nick Columbia, one of the songwriters, he looked at me and said, well, tell me about your son. And I started to, go into it and just said, well, dude, he's my boy. And he said, well, let's just write that. And, Russell Sutton or Lee Starr was, piped in and was like, well, he ain't got my smile, but that don't bother me a bit. And we were off to the races.
I love the story behind the song so much. And so then you go from that to being featured in People magazine because you and Mandy are having a baby girl.
Yeah, having a baby girl, man. So excited. We have put it off for such a long time, especially with me doing this. And it was always like, well, let's get a house with 3 bedrooms, or let's wait till we're making this amount of money a year, or wait till we buy a house or whatever. And it was last year during the pandemic, it was just like put a lot of things into perspective. And it's just like, hey, if we keep waiting for the perfect time, the perfect time's never going to show up. And so here comes baby girl. I've wanted a baby girl for years. She has as well. My mom told me that Jesus told her in a dream like 4 years ago we were going to have a baby girl one day. So I guess Jesus was right.
Wow.
And you know what, Elvie? He usually is. He usually is. My experience has proved that with 100% accuracy he is. So there you have it.
Yeah, maybe even 110%.
Well, yeah, Jesus and mamas are always right. I think is the way that works.
Man, they always love me, even when the devil took control. But no, man, my boy, he's my boy, and I wanted him. I want him to be my boy. And so I didn't want this. I didn't want mine and Mandy's first biological child to, take that from him. And but he doesn't agree with me there. He wants a little brother still to this day. He's like, all right, I'll take a sister, but I would really like to have a little brother. So yeah, I know.
And how old is he now?
You got time.
Yeah, he's 14.
Okay.
He'll be 15 in August or September. I get him and my wife's birthday confused because one is 8/18 and one is 9/19. So it's hard to remember. She's 9/19. He's 8/18. Yeah, man, I'm excited. This will probably be. Well, I never say never. This will probably be our only one, and I would like to adopt again one of these days.
Oh, very cool.
Well, Country Roads is the new EP, and he debuted at the Grand Ole Opry. How long did you know in advance of your Opry debut on Friday night, Elvie, and recollect the experience that was that first time as a performer on the Opry stage?
And I can't remember exactly how long ago we got the phone call, but I just remember when I did get the phone call and they said the date, it was April 23rd. April 23rd, I'm going to try to stay straight here. April 23rd is a very, very important day in my life and has been since I was about 5 years old. And not only was April 23rd going to be the day that I released my first project out to the world, but April 23rd was also a day that caused a lot of pain and anguish for my family at an early age. My brother and sister were in a really bad car wreck, and which left my brother, mentally and physically handicapped. He's great now. He's doing good, got a wife, got a kid and everything, but it was just a long, long road. And my sister was also injured in it. And so when I got that call and got to play the Opry, I mean, it just changed. It changes that date, and what it represents. It's kind of like the phoenix rising from the ashes. You know what I mean? and they were in a Thunderbird, and I have this tattoo on my hand, wow. And it's just it was a huge blessing for it to be that particular day, and my music going out to the world. And then, like I was saying earlier, just having that tangible thing that you can hold on to, you can feel, you can see, and something that's so cool is that from the beginning of my day to the end of my day, we were filming and we were doing interviews and we were catching every single moment of that day. So I'll always have that. I'm so pumped to see it. I'm like, when are they going to get it put together? But I'm like, I'll always have that day recorded, and I can go back and relive it. And I can relive that moment that I wasn't going to step in the circle until I play music, because I feel like the circle's a place for music. But as I was standing out there and they're asking me if I was going to get in the circle, and I was like, heck no, I ain't. Then I stepped back, and I remember my wife is in the dressing room getting her makeup done for the show and for her interview for the documentation we were doing that day. And I was like, you know what? If I hadn't met my wife, then I wouldn't have written the song My Boy. If I hadn't written the song My Boy, I wouldn't have got the attention of the labels and the publishers and everything that's allowed me to live the life that I live now, to be able to write the songs that I've put onto this project. None of this would have came to fruition if it hadn't been for this one person who was getting makeup put on right now. So I had them go back and get Mandy and bring her out there, and me and her were able to hold hands and step into the circle together for the first time.
Wow! So, that's cool.
That was big for me, and I wouldn't trade my first time stepping in the circle that way for nothing.
Oh, Buck Owens was right. You're only 3 minutes away from stardom, right? With the right song.
Man.
And My Boy did it. This is a song he actually opened his set with, because a friend of yours said one day as he was leaving, keep on strumming, brother, or something like that?
Yeah, that was actually my older brother, the one I was just talking about. He's a little awkward about getting off the phone sometimes, and he was like, well, man, I guess just keep on strumming. And I thought, oh, man, there we go.
It's Elvie Shane. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Elvie.
Thank you so much.
Keep on strumming. Gonna keep on strumming. I hit a few bumps.
Thanks for listening to our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Our program director at WSM Radio is J. Patrick Tittle. Our digital producer is Haley Hall. Marketing and promotions director is Amanda Cannon. And I'm Charlie Matos. If you like what you've heard, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review on iTunes. It really does help new people find the show.